Hello, brothers and sisters. It's your boy BC. Welcome back to the Based LDS video. And I apologize. This is part 2 to Tim Ballard, and this was originally shot a week and a half ago. I didn't want to upload it to YouTube at 2 in the morning when it got done. So I set it for a schedule, and somehow, I don't know, I set it for the 2024. It's a long time to wait. And I didn't know that the video had not posted until I saw a comment from a user saying, "Where's part 2?" When I got on and I looked, and I'm like, well, shoot. Unfortunately, I can't just change the publish date, so I had to delete the whole thing, which means I get to do this all over again. And then I will do part 3 tomorrow. I was going to do part 2 yesterday, but some things came up with schedule and family, so I hope you'll forgive me, as we're all imperfect, as we're going to find out from this video. Because in this video, we're going to take a look at friendly fire. Friendly fire is that thing where you take casualties because of the people on your side. And when it comes to media, folks, look, we all know, some of us have some understanding that your mainstream media, your legacy media, they're biased. They're going to have ideas that they're going to put forth, and they don't really care about the other side or a fair examination. They're going to support their bias, right? We also have that point of view. Hey, the ex-mos and the prog-mos are going to say what they want to say, do what they want to do, affect the church how they want to affect the church, rather than having the church affect them, so to speak. But when the damage comes from the people on your side, because it makes you look bad, it's, I think, more painful. And this video has been rough for me to make. I've shot it probably 10 to 15 times. Didn't like it. I get too frustrated, too worked up, I don't stay level-headed. And so here I am getting to do it all over again. And for the 3rd time since I discovered my mistake. We're going to talk about how the people on our side can make us look bad. Unintentionally, but they do it regardless. So here's Word Radio, and forgive me, their video on their end, their audio, excuse me, is pretty poor. They've had, this is their 4th attempt at making a video, at live streaming. It's finally worked. They've recorded it. But there are audio issues from the result of having to change some of their equipment, an equipment defect. So it's a little soft. But I've tried to turn it up on my end for you so you can hear it clearly. So I hope this works. But here is them discussing the Tim Ballard story on the night it broke. Friday night. Maybe they did this on Saturday, but either way, the weekend it broke. And again, remember I said in my video, legacy media, they put things out there on a Friday for a reason. Either as a bombshell to break and leave people no time to react. You know, the object of their story, no time to react. Because staff has gone home, so on and so forth. Or to bury it so nobody talks about it. The Tim Ballard thing, it was meant to blow up. And it blew up spectacularly. And then legacy media did what they did. They got the hook in, and then they put something out on a Monday. That's the allegations from some women with OUR. See, it's planned. It is political. That said, this is political. But what the women allege may or may not have happened. That doesn't mean it's still not political. There are a lot of things that can be true as this is going on, so please keep that in mind. But again, I'm not going to focus on the allegations. I'm focusing on the reaction. The church's reaction, our reaction, and media reaction. And Ward Radio has done the most content, and then Last Dispensation. So let's just start with Ward because they're the most, I think, egregious. Here we go.
Ask, well, you know what? This is exactly what we're diving into right now, okay? Our boy, Tim Ballard, has been accused of all kinds of just, misappropriation of everything, general horribleness. In a Salt Lake Tribune article, who we know never lies about anything. It says, in a rare rebuke, LDS Church condemns Tim Ballard's morally unacceptable behavior. Well, geez, what is Tim Ballard's morally unacceptable behavior? How is it newsworthy? Has he been caught in some horrible scandal? I don't know, but here to tell us more is Kwaku L.
Now, these are all fair questions to ask. What's happened? What's been said? What's been done? Why is the church responding in this way? Those are fair questions to ask. But it's clear these guys don't have any answers going into it. And Kwaku's about to open up to that right away. Like, I don't know what's going on. But I also want to say this. Did you hear what he said when he brought up the Salt Lake Tribune? He goes, and they've never been known to lie about anything. These guys slide into ad hominem attacks easily and frequently. Right there, the tiny jab at Salt Lake Tribune. Later, they get into making fun of the way somebody with Fox 13 says his S's. It's stupid, it's childish, but that's why people will listen to these guys, I think. Because they can be fun. They can be fun. But when it comes to something serious like this, it's petty. Right? It's petty. So, I'm going to ignore most of that and stick to the substance of what they're saying. So here we go.
And Tommy Stevenson, because they seem to know everything about all this stuff.
No. Tommy, I don't know about you, but I can't figure out what's actually going on. I think the best way to start, actually, is let's play the video from Fox 13.
Now, did you hear that? I can't figure out what's going on. Let's start with the video from Fox 13. Now, folks, when this broke, I watched, and I did, when I did my first video, I said I gave this a few days to see what would happen. But I learned when I was in college that I did not manage to graduate because I cannot math to save my life. I learned when doing research, primary sources. Go to the source, not the secondary or the third hand or some sort of commentary. Go directly to the source as you can, as close to it as possible. Now I'm going to say this. It takes them 10, 15 minutes before they finally get into the Vice article that is the origin of this whole story. This one right here. Mormon Church denounces Tim Ballard's morally unacceptable activities. But you saw it in their clip. Well, here's what Salt Lake Tribune said. Well, here's what Fox News says. And they're going to show you a Fox News clip that kind of talks about something other than this. Because the day I watched this, there were a lot of other there's another Fox 13 clip that talked about, according to Vice News, Tim Ballard, morally unacceptable behavior. Church denounces Tim Ballard. Was it ABC4, CBS2, something like that, Salt Lake Tribune, Deseret News? They all issued the same basic sentiment and statement. And they all also said, according to Vice News, per Vice News, an article from Vice News, they go through Fox 13 and all these other sources before they finally get to Vice News. And quite frankly, had any of these college graduates learned their lessons, they would have gone to Vice News. Well, what did Vice News say? And here's the headline. A church spokesperson tells Vice News that Ballard betrayed his friendship with a powerful leader who never authorized his name or the name of the church to be used for Tim's personal or financial interests. This is the focus of Vice News. They're going to set up, and this is on the political bent. This is setting up to create a divide between the church and Tim Ballard, and therefore create a serious difference of opinion and some confusion in the minds of saints who would be prone to very wholeheartedly supporting Tim Ballard. This is your setup before they knock him down on Monday with the allegations. And again, I'm not going to speak to the allegations. This is a serious matter, and I think there's a lot of different ways of looking at it, but in this video and the next one, I'm not talking about the allegations. This video is about friendly fire from church content creators, pro-church content creators, and then the next one will be the church PR department itself. I'm going to ignore the antis and the exmos because we know what they're going to say. We know where they're going to fall. So we should not be surprised. So let's go back and hear what Ward Radio has to say.
The donations that they get to catch pedophiles.
Okay, yeah, so you've been following this OUR thing for a while, right? So before we dive right in, give us a little bit of history on why you're charged up about this subject, man. And then we'll finish watching the news report.
Yeah, so there's a lot of repeated, kind of like with the church, there's a lot of repeated myths about OUR, especially coming from Vice, because there's just one journalist, she and then this other guy, they basically have a vendetta against Ballard as well as OUR, and it all started around 2020 where they released, it's nothing but a sham article, like it's because Ballard shortened one phrase in a Fox op-ed news piece, which he also released in the Deseret News, and it basically says that Ballard claims to have saved someone when she in reality saved herself, but they offered her aftercare after sex trafficking. And that kind of started a litany of different articles. So that article is cited everywhere.
Okay.
Now let me see this. I can't find that article. But I did find an article from 2020 where they talk about Border Patrol catching a white van, someone in it that had a young woman in the van. Now, according to Vice, Border Patrol caught the guy. Tim Ballard kind of found out about it, showed up and said, hey, okay, made it kind of a photo op, and then provided some aftercare. According to OUR, they tipped Border Patrol off and were nearby waiting for the apprehension so they could verify or something to that effect. And now for me, that's where I find, and the New York Times, Washington Post, all these guys, they go back to, according to Vice, they do. He's right. There is an echo chamber of things that are repeated, and then these things that are repeated become authoritative because, well, look how often it's cited. And that's not how it works, right? All that is the echo chamber of, well, this person said this, and I'm reporting that, and then I reported that, and then they reported on that, and somehow the reporting of a he said, she said becomes true for one side according to what the other side's all reporting. A version of that happened with the Covington kids. If you guys remember that, the kids from Covington, Kentucky, that high school, the Catholic school, they were on the steps in like Lincoln Building or something like that, Lincoln Memorial or somewhere like that. And it's these kids approached this Native American who was playing a peace drum or whatever, prayer drum, and mocked him and insulted him, and they were all sorts of racist. And they got this from like a couple minutes of a clip on a camera. Well, all the news journalists just circulated the same story, the same opinion, the same clip. But a few people, like Tim Pool, who I often refer to in this case because he's worked for Vice in the past, went, I wonder if there's more out there. And Tim, like the next day, he's like, this didn't happen the way they're saying. It's the media's lying. They're setting these kids up to be racist, and they're going to paint them as, and that's exactly what happened. But it took years for that to break. Years for that to change. And the Covington kids ended up suing a lot of news outlets. And the news outlets were never found guilty because a lot of them settled out of court for less. They can avoid saying they did something wrong while paying out a little bit. Some of them got ahead of it, issued corrections. It depends where they fell, but it fell like an ideological lines. Progressives reported it one way, conservatives another. In the end, the conservative viewpoint was more correct. So what Timothy Stevens here is reporting is kind of correct, but we're looking at two different... He's reading one story, I read another, but they kind of match up in that Vice has a version, OUR has a version. Well, who are you going to follow? And OUR, this lady, Anna Merlin, and Tim Marchman. That's the lady who's and also this kind of other guy. These two are always on OUR's tail, especially Tim Ballard's. Now, Tim's an editor-at-large here, Tim Marchman. This guy, oh, my picture's covering his name. Tim Marchman, right here. He's an editor-at-large, I think they call it, or something to that effect. He's involved in more articles than Anna is. Anna focuses a lot on the church, Tim Ballard, and stuff like that. So, Ward Radio continues. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because they do liken it. See, they liken it right away, too. Vice News is treating Tim Ballard and OUR just like the antis do the church. I hope you noticed Tim saying that. And Cardin's going to play into this. Now, if you have that opinion, okay. I kind of have that opinion, but I don't look at it as a because of OUR thing. I think it's a progressive ideology thing. I think this is the stance of the new way of sexually making sexual circumstances a form of moral relativism. And I think when they get into saying that kids can change their gender and do whatever else, that if kids consent to this, they can consent to adult activities, if you know what I'm saying. And I think it's Anna and Tim Marchman. There's too many Tims here and too many Ballards. Tim Marchman are falling into these ideological categories. I cannot prove that offhand. I suppose if I were to go in and do a deeper dive, I could show tendencies and things. But this is where I generally think they're trying to fall. And I think they have problems with organizations and people like Tim and OUR because they feel bad for the pedophiles. Because these are just people who can't help who they are. But that's my opinion. That is my opinion. It's not a fact. I cannot prove it offhand at the moment. All right, so let's move back into Ward, but we're going to fast forward a little bit here. Okay, so we've skipped where they compare this anti-OUR to anti-Mormonism and articles citing an original article, therefore giving credence to it. And they jump from that straight to Kwaku going, this is where we go off the rails here. This is where they really go off the rails here. And look at this, we're only 8.5 minutes in. And this is where they go directly off the rails and they never recover.
They're all saying the church denounces Tim Ballard. And it's invite.
Now, when he says they're all, it's the other outlets. Fox, Deseret News, ABC, CBS, Salt Lake Tribune. They're saying that's the they're all. And look where he goes with this.
Vice News, so I'm trying to find the actual church statement.
Yeah, but
I can't find it anywhere.
So can I give you my impression of that? Because as I've been searching through,
I can't find the actual church statement. Have you heard them once say that they've gone to Vice News? They keep going to other places to find the church statement because they don't understand what the nature of the church statement is. They're looking dumb so far, and they're going to get dumber as they go. And this Timothy Stevens guy, who is editor emeritus of the Cougar Chronicle and a contributor to the Post Millennial, so that he's some sort of a journalist, some type of guy who claims to think about things, I'm shocked he does not recognize what kind of statement this is and that he doesn't step in. Right? Like if he's an editor for the Cougar Chronicle, granted, I'm assuming that's the college newspaper, right? Maybe they don't do a lot of requests for comments from church leaders or head coaches or athletes or things. And so therefore he would understand that that church leader or head coach is responding directly to him and not to the world in general. Maybe he doesn't get that. I don't know how he doesn't, but maybe as an editor, he just never dealt with that. But they never go to the original source. They keep talking about these outside sources. They're blind. And they're intentionally, willfully blind. Like they just don't want to go to Vice News because of the reputation Vice News has. But they would save themselves a lot of trouble if they just go straight to Vice News. Watch.
Like you mentioned that, Kwaku. From what I saw, it seems incredibly misleading of Vice to have said that a church, like, official issued a statement about this, because it looks like they emailed somebody who emailed them back saying something, right? Not.
That's exactly correct. But this again is where the editor emeritus might have some knowledge and go, that's because this is somebody who's replying. But apparently he's ignorant to this fact. And these guys keep fall further into the rabbit hole. Because he's correct. It looks like they emailed somebody and somebody emailed them back. Yes, they emailed a church official.
Not an official church statement publicized anywhere.
Yeah, that's the issue.
This is where I take my deep breath. Because if you read the Vice article, they make it clear. So let's go to the Vice article. And let's just rehash the Vice article for a minute. The very first paragraph, documents obtained by Vice News show anti-trafficking activist Tim Ballard claimed that a revered and powerful figure in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints played a secret central role in OUR. That's the first sentence. That's their opening statement. We're writing this story about this. And then they go into making Tim and OUR look weird and dumb and letting people draw their own conclusions then about the church that would support Tim Ballard. We get into things like Tim's convinced he's a Mormon Messiah. But also, Tim was close to President Ballard, but he betrayed their friendship. Again, not a lot of people know who President Ballard is, I'm thinking. They just think he's got the name president, must be. And he is a higher up, but they're not drawing any. They don't give you any information on what kind of relationship they may have had. Then, third paragraph, they take a snippet, another snippet from the statement. And then they go into, now let's smear Tim some more. He left OUR following internal investigations into employee complaints about his conduct. He may be running for Senate. Now, here we are in, what is it, the 6th or 7th paragraph. The documents obtained by Vice News through a public records request are from a now closed criminal investigation into OUR. So now you know this is documents collected by the Utah Attorney, the Davis County Utah Attorney General, or whatever they're called, and the FBI over the course of their investigation, which was like 4 years long, that's been closed. So no charges levied against Tim or OUR. Beyond some that we've already talked about, like McCubbins and the fraud and other things like that. Where in 2020, they're like, walls may be closing in on Tim Ballard. Vice was very happy about that, as was Lynn Packer, with American Crime Journal and whoever else he works for now. I don't know. But again, go back to Elder Ballard in his 90s, so he's old, is the acting president of the... Now they tell you what he does. An extremely senior position within the church and viewed by faithful Mormons as a profound spiritual and moral authority. So again, they're framing this. This whole thing so far is about framing Tim and the church to put them each in a certain light. The ties between Tim and Elder Ballard described in the document are numerous and occasionally bizarre, involving business arrangements, blessings, which we in the church might understand, but people outside of it might look at as odd, and a psychic claiming to be able to communicate with the prophet Nephi. And then they levy some more information on how certain, like an operation that went bad, Tim using Elder Ballard's name to monetize certain business exploits. And these are all very limited in detail, all very limited. But then right here, if they'd gone to the Vice article, in response to a detailed request for comment on these matters, a spokesperson for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints sent a statement which reads in full, and then we all know about the statement. Now, again, I'm not taking the statement into any sort of account here, because my problems with church PR, your problems with church PR are probably very similar. And this statement is horrifical. It is horrific. But it does not change the fact that this is not a worldwide statement that will be found on Church Newsroom. This is a response to a request for comment made by Vice News. Vice News says, hey, we've got these documents from Davis County and the FBI and their investigation, and inside these documents, some people who are formerly worked for OUR, and these come way at the bottom down here, where they get into all the ways that other people said Tim used Elder Ballard's name. And as you can see here, they've got text message or email, and the whiteboard, the infamous whiteboard for collecting money and distribution and building these businesses, and where Elder Ballard's name is mentioned. That's the entire second half of the article, is ways that people said Tim used Elder Ballard's name. If you read the Vice article, there is no reason for there to be any confusion on what this is about. This is about name dropping. It's about name dropping. Using Elder Ballard's name to make money.
We can't find it anywhere. And like, I'm looking for
And so
message from the first presidency.
So the Salt Lake Tribune is turning this into an official church announcement denounces Tim Ballard. Like, that's not even close to what's happening.
So this is what the Deseret News
Except that is what happened.
article says. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty confused here.
And again, see, they're still in other sources.
This is a little bit poorly written because they're quoting a statement that was already made by the church. And here it is. It says, President Ballard. Okay, so Deseret News is quoting Vice News, just as Tommy Stevenson says.
Read that whole paragraph.
Yeah.
Except it's not as Tommy Stevenson says, because this is not a statement that the church made years ago. This is a statement the church made weeks ago. This is a new statement, but it is strictly to Vice.
Vice News article was based on records obtained from a now-closed Davis County investigation. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints released a statement in response to the report, first published by Vice. The full statement from the church reads...
Wait.
That's not true.
First published by Vice is the part that's throwing me off.
Go back. I put the Vice article into this.
And see, here's where Bradley Whitbeck's like, that's not true. It is. It is. It was in the article. It says right there.
Vice is totally lying. They're abusing the word statement. If you look at the Vice article that they're referencing when I put it in the Discord.
Okay, here it is.
To be fair, they didn't say official statement, didn't they?
Yeah.
That is such a stupid distinction. A statement is a statement. A statement is a statement. We'll get more into this as they get into the Doug Anderson aspect.
Yeah, but they know what they're doing.
Statement. I know, it's just semantics, but... that's
Mormon
probably how they
Church
get away
denounces
from it.
Tim Ballard morally unacceptable activities.
Yeah. So
They don't even know what the activities are. Like, it's so ambiguous. It could be...
Well, this is what they say.
Did the journalist guy here not read the article? Read the article, Tommy, or Timmy, whatever your name is. Read the article. If you guys are going to get on here and create a content that affects thousands of viewers and shapes their opinions, come better informed. Because you make us look stupid. As I was watching your video, I knew what was going on. And I was so mad because I'm like, you idiots. You're confusing these people out here. I know your intentions are good. I like your other videos. I'm a subscriber. I like your videos, Ward Radio. But when you get it wrong, boy, you guys go off the rails quick and hard.
Okay, let me read what the Deseret News article says. Yeah. Because, again, this is all very...
So that part that you're getting from Deseret News, I want you to read it from Vice, from their article from yesterday. Because you'll see why they said it was a statement from the church. And then you'll see just how weaselly these
So read this
morons
article
are
first
being.
is what you want me to do?
No, scroll down to where you see the exact same clip that they're about to share in Deseret News. They should have done better fact-checking on this.
Okay.
Scroll down further.
I hope Doug or Bradley, you go back and apologize to these people. Because you sound a fool right now. You sound a fool right now.
Okay.
And further, it's a terrible, terrible freaking website. It kept on popping up ads that were covering over all of it.
Yeah, it's trying to tell me that my malware is not... Okay, the ties between Tim Ballard and Elder Ballard.
Keep going down. You're going to see where they actually have the full statement.
Okay, so here it says...
They always put the full context farther down the article.
Yeah, exactly.
I need the full context, though.
Which is true. That's called burying the lead. But I alluded to that when I said, here's how they make things look bad, and here's how they frame it, and now here's the story. Right? Like 10th, 7th, 8th, whatever paragraph it was. In response to a statement, boom, church says this, and then boom, here's this guy said this guy said this guy said this, here's the whiteboard, here's this guy said this, here's the text message, this guy's... It's framing. You frame it beforehand. Again, whether Tim did what people are claiming he did or not, this is still a politically slanted article. This is a political hit piece.
Okay,
so in response to a detailed request for comment on these matters, a spokesperson for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints sent a full statement which reads, in full.
So they sent a full statement to a random person at Vice? Like, this isn't an...
Because, see, look at this. Read the paragraph above it. Read the article. Put things into context. You deal with anti all day, every day. You, more than anybody, should know about putting things into context. Well, they take things out of context and they say Brigham said this, but if you look at the full quote, they say that Joseph Smith said this, but if you look at the full speech, they say that you should know better than anybody else about reading in detail, critical thinking and reading, and then putting things in context. You should.
Official statement made by the church. This is the person randomly responding to the person at Vice. This doesn't strike me as an official statement.
Okay, well,
in any way.
Say the name of the spokesperson?
Well, this is what he said.
It doesn't have to say the name of the spokesperson. They're most often kept anonymous because they work for people.
Well, let's just read it, okay? It says, President Ballard and Tim Ballard, no relation. Establish a friendship.
Okay, here they get into reading the statement. They're going to read the statement, and then they're going to start picking the statement apart and saying why it's not an official church statement and why it's probably bogus, and is it possible that somebody's email was hacked, and they're going to go down all these stupid rabbit holes. But they are this far off already 12 minutes in. 12 minutes in. Now, later that night, they're going to do this hour-and-a-half video. Then later that night, they find out about a response from Tim Ballard, and they come back and they do this all over again. But then they talk about the response for Tim Ballard, like, Oh, doesn't he look sincere? Oh, well, would you make this video if you were guilty? Oh, would you? And it's nonsense. It's a way to keep getting clicks. In my opinion, it's a way to keep getting clicks. But they don't educate themselves at all about the context of the statement or the Vice News article. I do not like Vice News. I do not. They are scummy. They are. Without a doubt, they are scummy. But a broken clock is right twice a day. And in their story, what they're reporting is accurate. We obtained documents from a Utah county and the FBI. We reached out to the church for comment. This is the reply we got from a church spokesman. And it comes out later, Doug Anderson. Doug's the director of media relations for the church. Doug did his job. You don't have to like how Doug did his job. I don't. I don't like the statement. I think it's foolish. But you don't, and I still don't understand why Doug framed it that way. Maybe there was actually a reason. Maybe. Maybe Doug's bad at his job. Maybe. There's all sorts of reasons for the statement being framed the way it is. Anywhere from, that's how the 12 told him to say it, to, no, Doug's just on his own doing a bad job. And everything in between. And boy, is there a lot of in between. There's a lot of in between. So we're not going to go to the second video that they did later that night. We're going to go to the one they did Monday after the allegations were released. All right, so this is the video that Ward Radio did on Monday. And they brought on, you see there in the top left, Greg Mattson, Quick Media, and the bottom left, Jacob Hansen, Thoughtful Faith. Now they've done a recap over what happened over the weekend and the new allegations that came out on Monday as far as the harassment. And then they've just gotten through talking about what a poor statement this is. And they're not wrong. This is a bad statement. It is a bad statement. Yes, it's a bad statement. But this is the next bad place they go to. See, they go from there, and it leads naturally into who's making the statement, how and why. So we're going to pick up from this is a bad statement, this is how I would have said it. And now Cardin's going to try and be charitable here. And he's going to tell a little anecdote or whatever you want to call this. And then listen to how they react. And they're wrong in their reaction.
In all fairness to Doug Anderson, I've heard before that if the Apostle Paul knew how much scrutiny were going to be put into his epistles, he might have done a little bit better job clarifying some things. Doug Anderson, I don't know, maybe it was naivete to the acts that Vice generally has to grind against the church. Or maybe he was just trying to euphemize something he felt personally passionate about, or he knew that M. Russell Ballard or somebody else felt personally passionate about.
But he had...
That's Cardin trying to be charitable. Thank you, Cardin, for trying to be charitable. But watch right where Jacob goes to.
To have gotten approval to release that statement.
Okay.
Absolutely. There is no way...
Yeah. Why? Why? Why would he have to have gotten approval to release the statement? His official title is Director of. This is a people leading people. Directors aren't bottom rung in a cubicle staring at their cubicle wall. Directors are guys that have windows. They have a couple people, maybe more, working under them as part of the PR department. Is it possible he had to get permission? Yes. But is it absolutely 100% necessary that somebody had to have given authority for that statement? No, it is not. And that is a ridiculous statement to make.
There is no chance.
Well, how do we have proof of that? How do we
see, Cardin's... Well, what's your proof of that? What's your proof of that?
Let me tell you some proof.
Well, hold on. Brittany the Shadow, and then Greg Mattson.
Okay. probably what I don't know, probably what everyone else doesn't know. Why Vice? Why did he talk to Vice? And also, why...
Again, that is such a dumb statement and dumb question. Why Vice? Because again, as I showed you in the Vice article, Vice reached out to the church. They're still stuck on, why would the church talk to Vice? Why isn't this in the newsroom? Why isn't... It's this dumb circling. It's dumb logic. It's this foolishness. I hate to say do better because they sound like a leftist. Do better. Come on, but step it up. You guys. That's just a dumb question because it says Vice reached out to the church. And they're going to have... The church has ways of being reached out for journalistic purposes. There are ways to contact the church for journalistic purposes that don't include an email directly to the First Presidency or the President of the Quorum of the 12. You will reach out to someone in the Media Relations Department. And it could be somebody 4 levels below Doug got a hold of this. And they talked about it. And then Doug's like, all right, this is how we're going to do it. And then sends it out. I don't know. But there's a reason this is put out to Vice. Because Vice asked for it. It's in the article. Read the article. And 2, there's a reason Doug did it. Because he's the director of media relations.
Why did Vice not include his name originally?
They don't have to.
Not like us. Why did they not put said by...
How often do you get a White House spokesman said in your articles? Is she sitting there like, well, which White House spokesperson? There are so many different spokespeople on so many different levels. But there's always a director. Someone who's their boss. And look at Quaku smiling. Yep, call it, Brittany. You go, girl.
Anderson.
You see that? Ignorance.
13, right? They were
Ignorance.
The ones that released Doug's name. Why did Vice keep it anonymous?
I'll tell
I'm
you
sure
exactly
they
why.
knew why.
And it was planned. That was absolutely
Yeah.
planned.
Yeah, I'll tell you
See-
exactly why. And this is where, just really fast before you talk.
Again, why does it have to be a smear job? It is standard. Open any newspaper, you zillennial fool. Read a paper. Read a news article. Don't just watch the video off your phone so you don't know how things work. They don't have to cite somebody at all. And I'm going to say it again. Tim Pool's often like, an anonymous spokesman said, yeah, the anonymous guy can be the hobo on the corner. That's how they play these games. But Doug Anderson is hired by the church to do media relations. He is a church spokesman. That's the nature of his job. When you're with media relations, that's the nature of your job. To relate to the media, to speak to the media. You are a public relations face or voice. So we're 3 days in now, and they're still arguing over this stupid stuff.
Talk, Greg. I'm going to meander into the FAIR article that has also indeed been written on this issue. I was sent this, and a lot of people said, "Oh, yo, is FAIR backing up the hit piece against Tim Ballard or whatever their interpretation was?" And I said, "Wait, now hold on a second. I want to read this question." How can we be certain Church's alleged statement to Vice was legitimate? Well, first off, Hal Boyd at Deseret.com, who I trust as being a person who at least cites sources correctly, said indeed it was.
Why? You guys can't cite sources correctly. You don't even understand what a source is. However, yes, he's right. And I want you to listen to his reaction to this FAIR. Let me say this. If Vice was going to use somebody from outside the church, they would have said, someone requesting to remain anonymous replied. Something along those lines. But the moment they say a spokesperson for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints replied or reached out, they're on the hook for it being someone actually with the church, because they're making a claim that this is where we get this statement from. They can't lie about that. Because then the church can go, no one with us ever issued that statement. But if they would have said an anonymous source informed Vice News that, then it could be the hobo on the corner. It could be Aaron Shavalafalafalafalaf. It could be Durbin. It could be me. Anonymous source can be anybody. But the moment you put a church spokesman says that it has to be somebody in the church, and it has to be somebody that can give this response. Fair's not wrong here. If they would not have reported this correctly, they're open to possible lawsuits. And the way Vice gets around this is go, oops, we'll issue a correction. Oops, we'll issue an update. But by then, look, the damage is done. What's been said on Friday, they can correct on a Wednesday, next week, next month, to avoid the lawsuit. We issued a correction. We were mistaken. That's how you get around it. But fair's not wrong here. They do have to meet certain standards. They do have to meet certain standards.
And that's owned by the church. As well as, here's the answer. Vice produces slanted opinion journalism, but is still subject to defamation laws. This is where I actually take issue with fair, and I'll get back to it. Fabricating a statement from the church in order to harm Tim Ballard would put Vice at risk of serious legal liability, and therefore it's unlikely to have happened. Moreover, other outlets, including the church...
That's all true. They want to avoid liability. They want to avoid looking bad.
Church-owned Deseret News have confirmed the church's statement. One outlet reports the statement came from Doug Anderson, Church Director of Media Relations, from his official church email address. We can confirm that is indeed true. However, So
that wasn't Doug's personal email address. It didn't come from @Doug777@gmail.com or anything like that. No. This was Doug Anderson at Church of Jesus Latter-day Saints.org, whatever it is.
Issue with fair, saying that, hey, Vice produces slanted opinion journalism, but it's still subject to defamation laws. Really? No, it's not.
Really, yes. And you're about to make an argument here that falls flat. I'll tell you why after he makes it.
The threshold in free speech America is so high that almost nobody, I think, and the proof is, we can all name civil rights heroes who've suffered greatly at the hand of our government and won civil rights lawsuits. We can count people that have won divorce lawsuits. We can count people that won all kinds of lawsuits. Name one person that's won a libel or slander lawsuit or a defamation lawsuit.
Hulk Hogan and Gawker.
In the past 30 years.
Covington kids.
Maybe the Covington Catholic kids. That's it.
And they won theirs more easily because they were private individuals. They have a certain expectation to privacy. Tim Ballard's a public person. There's less expectation to privacy. The church is a public entity, less expectation to privacy, but the reporting still has to be correct. Sources, if they're going to be used, have to be cited correctly. Be it as generic as an anonymous source or a church spokesman or a White House official said. If you're going to do it a certain way, it has to be done in a certain way. And you have to be able to back it up. A church official, Doug Anderson, did reply to a request for comment from Vice because it was a request for comment, not a press release issued on Church Newsroom. And again, Covington kids had an easier time suing because they have the expectation of privacy as they're private individuals. They're not celebrities. They're not corporations. They're not fill in the blank. Tim Ballard does not have that same expectation of privacy, although there are still libel laws that protect him. But all Vice News has to do is issue a correction. But again, hey, Hulk Hogan could have owned Gawker. Oh, I think he shut Gawker down because of his lawsuit. It was so he won so bigly. But there are others. There are lots of others. Cardin just hasn't done his research, and I'm not going to go into it because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Vice News fulfilled their requirements.
And it was a situation so heinously grievous that it was absolutely impossible to prove otherwise. And in this case with Vice, you know what? If in front of a judge, I was the editor of Vice, I might have known that Doug Anderson wasn't releasing this through the newsroom, which is the usual protocol.
That's not the usual protocol. Again, you see, there's days into this. They're still like, it didn't go through newsroom, therefore not official. This is not a statement to the world. Newsroom is where they say, here's our state, here's our mission presidents, here's our new temples, here's what President Oak said in an address to Catholic leaders on Good Friday about charity. And then they give you a couple paragraphs and tell you where you can go to find more of it. That's what Church Newsroom is. Church Newsroom is not, hey, Vice News reached out to us for comments about an investigation Davis County and the FBI conducted. And, well, rather than respond to Vice, we're going to tell the whole world. Because the church is probably thinking, nobody's going to read Vice and care. That's LDS. Except they did. Because it's Tim Ballard. And I don't know what the church was thinking. But this is the church newsroom is not how the church would handle this.
We all would have preferred, and even the most loyalists like Nathaniel Givens, and I'm sure Brad, who's very cautious about his criticisms of the institution. Even the most loyal people prefer seeing things of this much import released through the official channels such as the newsroom, and this wasn't. But in a court of...
But that again is misunderstanding what the church newsroom is for. And that's where you clowns keep on coming in clownish.
Law, let me tell you, if I were the editor of Vice and I wanted to hit the church as hard as I could, I'd take anything with a churchofjesuschrist.org email address attached to it and say, well, it was an official statement, Your Honor.
And with that, we're going to stop with No Word Radio right here. And I'm going to bring up... I'm going to bring up the most mid-wit, the most smooth-brained, the most know-nothing. I cannot stand this person. But ladies and gentlemen, to support my case, one, Dr. John DeLynn, guest starring Anna Merlin and Tim Marchment of Vice News. Here we go.
There are a bunch of questions about our reporting and how we got some of the things that we got. And while we can't speak to all of that in a public setting, this seemed like a really good way to respond to some of those questions. We know you have a big audience in the LDS community, including people who might not approve of you personally. And so this felt like a good sort of time and place to try to figure out what people's continued questions and concerns still are and see if we can address those.
Excellent. Yes. And thank you for that important shout out to Lynn Packer. I would love to have him on as well soon. Tim.
And remember, Lynn Packer's the guy who originally started reporting on the investigations back in 2019 or 2020. Lynn Packer, no friend of the church. I believe he was nephew to Elder Boyd K. Packer. And he has been friendly with Mormon Stories podcast for a number of years. He has been friendly with Amy Voice, who was anti-LDS for a number of years. I don't think he liked his uncle. It's my opinion, garnered from what I've read and what I've seen him produce on Elder Packer. But we're going to get into now Vice News explaining the journalistic process that one Timothy Stevens, or Tommy Stevens, whatever he is, formerly of Cougar Chronicle, and any of these guys that have been on Word Radio, or any number of people who've commented on this stuff, should have picked up on. Like Vice ain't lying. The Tribune, Deseret News, they're all correctly reporting what Vice says. Now, I will say this. It does create an echo chamber. Vice News puts out an article. Salt Lake Tribune goes, look at what Vice News says. That makes Vice News seem more credible. See, you see how you start building that circle? And then you get Slate, The Atlantic, Newsweek. They all build on a pile off of these hot button issues that makes the Vice original article seem more credible, which is what the Stevenson guy in the first video was talking about, and what I brought up about an echo chamber. You create an echo chamber where if you just cite each other for long enough, the citations build up and you seem like a credible source, even if you're dog doo-doo. Anyway, here we go.
Joining us through video, I imagine there are safety concerns, but maybe there are privacy concerns as well. But Tim, anything you want to add as a beginning starting point?
We will get a couple smooth brain takes from John to Lynn here, which makes me kind of happy. But they still overall come on looking really good and making the people like Ward Radio and others look bad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first off, I don't like being on video for whatever reason, even when it's not public. It's just a hang up. So thanks for bearing with me. And I hope that doesn't put anyone off too much. I echo everything Anna said. And, just want to say it's sad. These are sad stories to be reporting. There are, vulnerable.
I doubt that these people are sad. Yeah, they're sad like John is sad.
Vulnerable women and children in particular, and harmless.
Won't someone think of the children?
Family members and harmless people who have donated, put their hearts into the work OUR does. Like a lot of people affected by that. So, it's not any. These aren't stories you take any pleasure in publishing or are excited about. But
that's the opening statement that helps them feel like they're connecting with their audience on an emotional level. We don't like reporting these things. We'd really rather not do it. But in the end of the day, we have a responsibility.
They're important ones, and we're continuing to report on this. We do have more stories coming, and a lot of people are now willing to talk to us who haven't previously been, I think partly because we've put new information out there that kind of compels them to speak. And in some ways, I think that the extraordinary statement that the church gave us last Friday has had some people kind of reconsidering their evaluation of Ballard, of OUR. And
there it is. Vice News says, yeah. And they're going to say this explicitly, but they're even surprised by how this statement was worded and how it came to them.
Just made them a little more willing to talk. So we have more stories that we're very close to publishing. I think we'll probably have one tomorrow.
More? Are you kidding me? More? We just had 3.
Yeah, I think.
Look at him smile, kid in a candy shop. You absolute monster of a man. You absolute monster of a man. Whether Tim Ballard did wrong in these harassment allegations or not, even if he's overstating the number of children he has helped to rescue by a factor of 10, it does not change the fact that he's still done good work, that he's still raised money for other good works to be done. And it also does not point to the fact that the man's family and name are being trashed. But look at you smile, Johnny. Look at you smile, you absolute human garbage disposal. I bit my tongue. I taste the blood. I'll let them continue.
I think, I don't like to talk about our reporting too much before we've reported it, but I think, in my opinion, the stories we have coming are as significant as the ones we've published, maybe more so. So, we're just going to keep working on those and try to get back to everyone who's reaching out to us.
I guarantee these articles will be spaced and timed for political slant. Now let's go ahead and let's move forward into them talking about the details of the statement and the journalistic process as a whole. And what they're going to tell you is going to back up everything I said. And again, whether you like Vice or not, a broken clock is right twice a day. And the way they did this was right. And every once in a while, a landmine step is put out there and somebody steps on it. And that's what happened in this case. So here we go. Let me fast forward to this next clip.
More rich. So thanks for everyone for the support. If it's all right, I'll jump into the slides. Is that all right, everyone? Okay. So the first story that broke, I believe, last week was Mormon Church denounces Tim Ballard's morally unacceptable activities. And perhaps the biggest part of this story hasn't actually been the denunciation of Tim Ballard. It's been how the church handled the statement. And so what I wanted to do was...
And here we go. All right, again, the biggest story for John isn't the statement, it's how the reaction to the statement went. And you're about to see how bad it went. Here we go.
Play a clip from some of the Mormon church's leading apologists, and I've already shared with y'all.
If Ward Radio is a leading apologist, I am a highly sought-after political influencer. Come on.
Some other clips from these guys. It's a podcast formerly known as Midnight Mormons. But I just want to give the viewers and the listeners the sense of how the Mormon Church's decision to release this statement impacted its faithful Orthodox believing members, led to a lot of confusion. And then I want to discuss whether or not it's possible that confusion was actually intentional. So let me just roll this clip.
As we do many of our anti-Mormon debunkings, is there's all of these recycled lies that just come back every 7 to 12 years. Okay, it's almost like anti-Mormonism has its own canon of just like these debunked tropes that just rear their head once every decade, and you know, they get kind of put in their place for a while, but then just, you know, when somebody hasn't heard of them for a decade, they come back, and they're all based on a lie, based on a lie, based on a lie that dates back to like somebody who threw something really quickly together in 1838 to write Mormonism Unveiled because they were losing so many converts to the Mormon Church, right? You're saying that there's a lot of anti-OUR tropes that kind of just get repeated and keep coming back once a year against Tim Ballard that seem to date back to a Vice News article that is based off of nothing true? What are you saying? Is this all fabricated nonsense, tribalism? What? Clarify.
That article, which is cited almost in every single Sound of Freedom, OUR, Tim Ballard hit piece, it will be cited, or it will cite something else that cites it.
Because that was my trouble. They're all saying the church denounces Tim Ballard, and it's in Vice News, so I'm trying to find the actual church statement.
Yeah, but
I can't find it anywhere.
So can I give you my impression of that? Because as I've been searching through, like you mentioned that, Kwaku, from what I saw, it seems incredibly misleading of Vice to have said that a church, official, issued a statement about this, because it looks like they emailed somebody who emailed them back saying something, right? Not an official church statement publicized anywhere.
Yeah, that's the issue. We can't find it anywhere. And I'm looking for a
so
message from the first presidency.
So the Salt Lake Tribune is turning this into an official church announcement denounces Tim Ballard. That's not even close to what's happening.
So this is what the Deseret News article says. And I got to tell you, I'm pretty confused here, but it seems like they're quoting, this is a little bit poorly written, because they're quoting a statement that was already made by the church. And here it is. It says, President Ballard. Okay, so Deseret News is quoting Vice News, just as Tommy Stevenson says.
Read that whole paragraph.
Yeah. It says, Vice News article was based on records obtained from a now-closed Davis County investigation. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints released a statement in response to the report, first published by Vice. The full statement from the church reads...
Wait.
That's not true.
First published by Vice is the part that's throwing me off.
Go back. I put the Vice article into this. Vice is totally lying. They're abusing the word statement. If you look at the Vice article that they're referencing, when I put it in the Discord.
Okay, here it is.
To be fair, they didn't say official statement, didn't they?
Yeah, but they know what they're doing.
I know, it's just semantics.
Okay, and I apologize for some of you.
Now, I played that clip earlier. I let them use it. I will let you watch it because I want you to see the context by which they're going to reply. And this breaks my heart.
If the audio's low there, I have it maximized on the link, and so that's just the best I could do. Maybe we can try and fix that in post-production. But the question, I think the first, I think, there's some stuff that was really weird about this statement. And let me just share some stuff that I shared yesterday. It was weird that a formal statement from a Mormon perspective, I think it was weird that the statement was released first to Vice News of all, venues. Why not Deseret News, right? Why not LDS Newsroom? That there was no name associated with the statement, that it eventually got leaked to other networks, and finally the author of the statement got dripped out. It's weird that the church still hasn't made a formal statement. And it's obviously weird that they slandered one of its most faithful defenders without getting their ecclesiastical leaders involved. So what can you guys do about telling us the story behind the statement?
Did you see that list of problems there? John DeLynn gets that list of problems from understanding every stupid thing that these people are propagating. If you look at that. And now he's going to go, well, so this is what LDS members would tend to think, because, well, we're fairly dumb. We're ignorant about certain things. How can you help to enlighten us? And now, Tim Marchment and Anna Merlin get to show you how credible they are, how trustworthy they are, as opposed to certain leading apologists like Ward Radio and their guests coming on and sounding all nonsensical and stupid and incredible.
What's the story?
Yeah, can you put that slide back up? I'd like to respond to a bunch of misinformation in here, if I may.
Now point out, these are my problems too.
So first of all, this is, to be candid, I think our main reason for wanting to talk today is because the amount of misinformation going around about what is a very standard reporting technique and very standard order of operations.
This is standard in the media industry. How they frame it, how they do it, whatever. But yes, statement handling is standard.
Has turned into this big mess. Okay, so first of all, Vice released this, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints released this statement to us in response to a request for comment that Tim sent them. Quite a bit of time went by between our request for comment and the church getting back to us with this statement. This was not rushed. This was not panicked. This was not something that, we got through some sort of backdoor means. We asked the church for comment. We got this statement several weeks later. They asked for it to be attributed to a spokesperson. This is pretty common, especially when someone is speaking institutionally and not personally.
Again, because how often will you open a newspaper or look at an article in a magazine and say, White House spokesperson, fill in the blank official says. It's standard. You don't have to give Doug's name. You don't have to release it to the entire world if a particular media outlet is requesting the information. Here we go.
My strong sense is that probably the media relations department of the church had a sense of what was going to happen here with this particular spokesperson now that his name is out there. Again, I'm speculating. They didn't release this statement on the LDS Newsroom because the LDS Newsroom issues press releases. This is not a press release. This is a response to a request for comment. I can't find any evidence that LDS Newsroom ever runs the...
And listen to what she's about to say here, and then go to LDS Newsroom, and you'll find out she's exactly right.
Comments that they give to news outlets. So there's a very big difference between a press release and a statement to a news outlet. A press release is a piece of PR. A statement to a news outlet responds to our reporting. I don't know what to say about the claim that they haven't made a formal statement. They did. They gave us a statement. And then it did not leak to other networks or news outlets. Those news outlets, the Trib, Deseret News, TV stations, asked if our statement that we ran was legitimate, was really from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and confirmed that it was. They got the same statement from the church and they ran it. Nothing leaked. So I think the important...
It's not a leak. This was not a leak to Vice because it's a response to a request for information. These other networks, it was not a leak because the other networks went, what does Vice have? Seriously? And then these networks would contact the church and go, is this really the statement made? Okay, thank you very much. Have a good day. Enough said. That's as far as anybody has to go to prove or disprove the Vice article. Did you really say this? You did? Okay, thank you.
The thing for me here is that there is no kind of weird backdoor dealings here. There is no leaking. There is no subterfuge. Like, we have been super clear about how we got this, and so have these other outlets. You know, you can look on Twitter and you can see that, like, the editor of Deseret News is clarifying that this is also how he got it. So the idea that was promulgated in that podcast that something strange is happening or something unusual, what is unusual is the church giving us, as an outside news outlet, this statement. I understand that. I really don't want to.
Let's pay attention to what she's saying here. It's unusual that the church would give them, Vice News, a statement.
To downplay how surprising it is, because it was surprising for us too. But the idea that there is anything sort of sketchy or questionable about the statement is just sort of not where it is. Sorry, Tim, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I have a few things I want to add. First off, what I heard in that podcast, I'm sorry, it cost me 40 IQ points, and I didn't have them to lose. I just can't believe that there would be 5 people having a conversation that inane. It's embarrassing to listen to.
It is embarrassing to listen to. And you as Latter-day Saints should be embarrassed that they're putting that out there. Because I guarantee, if you're listening to me with all of 250 subscribers and probably 10 people are going to listen to this, guys, Ward Radio, Thoughtful Faith, these guys reach thousands, guys, thousands. And there are people spinning their wheels trying to decide who's correct here, the church or Tim Ballard. And that's a dumb question, but it's what the Ward Radio guys keep going through. Again, not that there aren't problems with church PR. Heaven knows this is not the only time they've stepped in it. They're not good at their jobs in statements. They can handle press releases. Hey, a temple opened. Hey, here's our new mission presidents for this year. But they really don't know how to approach the members and the media when it comes to hot topics. They don't. I'm going to stop the DeLynn thing here because, see, it's this that makes DeLynn look like he's a credible guy. That he's not got some sort of hustle or grift going. I don't like DeLynn. I don't like what he stands for. I don't like what he does. I think the man's a tool. That's my opinion. Never met him. Maybe it'd be different if we broke bread. But now that I'm on a carnivore diet, I don't break bread. I break steak. I can't afford steak. I break hamburger. But look. This is just a mess. It is a horrifical mess. And Ward Radio is not the worst offenders, but they're the largest, most well-known LDS content creator offenders out there that I can find. But let's do this just to show you what I mean. Let's do this. And I hate to do this. I hate to do this, but here we go.
about it, including me. And then eventually the source came out that it was actually from the director of church media relations, like 15-year veteran. And so it's like, oh, and like guys like that don't just release statements on their own. Like this is from the church. Like that came officially from the church, and that
yes, they can release those statements on their own. He's the director of media relations.
The media director they don't release statements like that without approval from probably at least an apostle. I would say maybe a couple of them.
Imagine the apostles' day if he had to answer every question directed at him because somebody below him has not been hired to make those decisions and pose those statements.
So this statement has been released, and it is extremely pointed, as we all just kind of heard. So real quick, that's sort of the situation. Everyone's been like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Now, in addition to this, Tim Ballard comes out, he rejects the claims, and then says it's all not true. And then now Vice releases another article that's alleging sexual misconduct allegations against him. People can read the articles, go into the details on that. Maybe we'll discuss those later. But that's and again, Tim is denying this and saying this is all like not true. And so now that's where it is, right? And so people are kind of shocked that the church came out with such a bold statement, calling Tim's behavior morally unacceptable, talking about betrayal. And Tim said, there's one thing that Tim is saying is he's saying, I haven't heard any of this. Like this just came out of left field. Like I wasn't called by the church, didn't talk to me, ask me about this. It was just like, boom. So anyway, that's sort of the situation. Anything I'm missing there? Do you want to add to that as far as just what happened?
I mean, there's so many details that you could add because this thing's getting pretty complicated. I think it might also be worth to note that the stake president and bishop of Tim Ballard also weren't aware of this before, which gets a little weird.
According to Tim, right?
Yes. According to Tim, which gets a little weird if we're calling something immoral behavior, all that kind of.
They're just rehashing what's already been done. They've come to no further conclusions. And I'm sorry, I thought I was at a different spot here. But look, an apostle does not need to have okayed this statement. Doug Anderson's hired to release these statements. He's hired for this job, to be the director of media relations. Is it possible he reached out to Elder Ballard? Yes. Is it possible he heard from Elder Ballard? Yes. Is it possible he heard from an assistant to Elder Ballard, or a secretary to Elder Ballard, or a secretary to an assistant, or fill in the blank? Is it possible that months ago the FBI in Davis County reached out to Elder Ballard and said, hey, here's what people are saying? And Elder Ballard was quite unhappy at the time. Is it possible Elder Ballard should not be having his name dropped? Is it possible that that's morally unacceptable? It definitely is. I think so. I said so in my first video. I know of a patriarch. He must avoid all appearance of any partiality. He has to maintain centrality. In business and in politics, he cannot appear to be playing favorites because people will look at that as, I should get in on this. I should vote like this. I should, and fill in the blank. As an apostle, that title carries such weight that these guys have to be careful with what they're getting involved in. Is it possible Tim never name dropped and people are saying he did? Yes. Is it possible Tim name dropped at every circumstance possible in order to make money? Yes. Is it possible it's anything in between, like Tim would name drop on occasion but didn't think anything of it because Elder Ballard was involved, but in the background or as a silent partner? Yes. Or fill in the blank. There are so many different scenarios here. You don't need to go with these. This is the way it is. And somebody has to give a permit. No, Doug Anderson can do what Doug Anderson's going to do. And it's possible this statement was just made because they're like, no one from the church is going to read Vice News. Let's make this as strong as possible to put distance between the church and these allegations that are coming out about Tim, about name dropping. It's entirely possible.
Supported or represented OUR, or Operation Underground Railroad, Tim Ballard, or any projects associated with them. Okay, just so that we're clear, Tim Ballard is an author in the Deseret Book website right now.
This is the dumbest argument for church endorsing. Look, the church has got clips up about Operation Underground Railroad on their church website, all this stuff. But the church has got Tim's books on Deseret Book. That is so... Son, does that mean the church endorses J.K. Rowling and her stance on feminism? Or are they just selling Harry Potter books? Is it possible the church, someone in the publishing department of Deseret Book, not the corporation for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is it possible that somebody finds the Lincoln hypothesis, Washington hypothesis, Pilgrim hypothesis, and the covenant books interesting? And that they might be of worth to the saints who would put out a little coin to get these books? That does not mean church endorsement. Listen to this.
Now, like lots of books by him that are being sold by the church's publisher. In addition, like...
The church may be affiliated, but Deseret Book is its own company with its own CEO. Sherry Dew, if I remember right. Making their own decisions as far as which books to publish. It is not a church thing. This is just a dumb line of argument. Dumb. You can point to so many other ways the church endorses Tim, and you'd be right. And this isn't the only time. Look at Jacob. A Deseret Book. They're just dumb. Come on, bruh.
Elder Ballard is on record on the church's website talking about Tim Ballard as his close friend.
And that's a good source. There you're okay to be upset. But the Deseret Book angle, come on, man. And this is not the only time he goes there. In this or other segments, like on Word Radio, he's on there all the time about Tim and Deseret Book. So they don't understand what statements are. They don't understand what endorsements are. Come on. All right, let's move on to somebody else.
I'm having some anxiety. I'm sad. I just went and told Andrea the news that I saw, and you guys probably know what I'm talking about. It's Tim Ballard from Operation Underground Railroad. What the heck is going on? How do you guys feel?
Now, I want to say this. I want to take it a bit easier on Troy here. I like Last Dispensation. I don't miss his videos. I don't. I'll pass up Ward Radio videos every now and then, but I don't pass up Troy's. They're fun. They're fun. I find him amusing. I know he's a working man. He teaches seminary. I think retired truck driver, I think he said. He's a good old boy. He's trying to, and he's on talking about what he wants to talk about with church stuff, with political stuff, with, what's he call it? Covert operators, secret combination. You get the idea. And I'm not as disappointed in Troy, but I just, it breaks my heart because the man is clearly, I think his brain broke with this set of stories.
Feel about this? I mean, I've got mixed feelings and I've got some opinions, but I'm basing those opinions on emotion, and I want to know what you guys.
And you can hear that emotion in his voice, like he's clearly broken up right now. And this is how I found out about the Tim Ballard statement. Is this video right here, or not the Tim Ballard statement, the Tim Ballard article? Because I don't read Vice. So, however Troy found out about it, the man's heartbroken.
Are thinking. There's two news clips I'm going to play. One of them's a little bit lengthier and more detailed, and then the other one I'll play after. But this one I kind of want to react to, and I don't know what to say. why would the church say this? Isn't it counterintuitive, counteracting, counterproductive to the cause of rescuing children? Why? Okay, just watch. Please watch.
All right, he is the famous founder of Operation Undercover Railroad.
First of all, it's not undercover railroad, it's underground railroad. Come on, man, get it right.
And the inspiration for the movie Sound of Freedom. But now he's being rebuked by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay, look, I know we haven't gotten very far in this video. But I just want to say this, rebuked. Okay, is that the words the church used? Now, when you hear what they had to say, it definitely is a rebuke. Why? I mean, couldn't this be something that he and President Ballard took care of on the down low level? This is not going to help with child trafficking. I'm sorry, I know he's an apostle and I love him and I support Elder Ballard. I do. And if Tim kept running his mouth and wasn't supposed to drop his name dropping's not cool, man, especially if somebody tells you to keep it on the down low. I get that.
I love that Troy catches on that the problem is name dropping. He did better than Ward Radio and Thoughtful Faith did. Troy caught on to this. But Troy, I'm showing here just because he's emblematic of the typical member. We've all hyped up Sound of Freedom. We've hyped up Tim Ballard. What a hero. What a guy. And he's LDS. Oh, boy. Boy Scout. Boy next door. Our guy. And this Vice article took everyone by surprise. And we're shocked and we're saddened and we don't know how to handle it. And you can see that right here with Troy. Like the man is rattled. But look at him. He's trying to decide whose side to take based on what he's heard from a video from Fox News. And he's heartbroken. And he's come up as the guy who's going to do everything he can to stand up for Tim Ballard. He will not throw the church under the bus, but he will throw Doug Anderson under the bus. He will complain about PR, rightfully so. He will talk about the combinations out to take Tim down. He will talk about he's at least open to. Tim may have done something bad, but boy, he was still ending human trafficking and he was doing good works. Do we have to throw everything out? And this is, Troy's got a good point here. Do you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater? If Tim did wrong, he still did right too. We need to take that into account. And Troy's also big about people can repent. We, as LDS, we love repentance stories. We love comeback stories, and he's absolutely right. We do. We love these things. We rely on these things. But Troy also goes down he goes too far down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, I think. In just understanding what this is. He's partially got a hold on it. But these are the guys I worry about when Ward Radio gets out there and they get all these talking heads going. I think people look at Troy for what he is. He's the average Joe. But the average Joe's listening to Ward Radio. And Ward Radio is just filling people with some bad information and some bad ideas. And Troy gets an email from someone who says, Watcher Palmer gets an email from someone who says they are Tim Ballard's aunt or cousin or something. And that members of the 12 are silently expressing their support. And so then Grant Palmer, Watcher Palmer, shares that with Troy, gets permission. Troy gets permission to post that, does it, and says, look, here it is. The 12 are supporting him. But then 3 days later, it says Tim being excommunicated. Well, are the 12 in support with him or not? Do we see? Troy's a little bit of a yo-yo, and I worry about the man. But this is just how he starts. It's just so lost and so confused.
But we also know there's some things at stake here, and the good that Tim is involved with. Now, that could keep people from donating. It could, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is President Ballard in the right? Do apostles always do everything right? Is this something that I should be shutting my mouth on? I mean, really, I don't know, you know. Is Tim in the wrong? But if he is, it's kind of like you got a war you're fighting, right? You've got a general that does something wrong. You're not going to talk crap about your general to the enemy's king or another general. Do you know what I'm saying? We're going to support our team, okay? Rescuing people from those kinds of situations is our team. That's our team. If one of the team captains does something stupid, we don't want to do anything to cause more problems for the team. Do you get what I'm saying? So anyway, let me shut up and let's go. In other words, could President Ballard have just said, "Look, Tim, I know you're excited, you're trying to do this, and I'm here for the cause, but stop doing that, okay? Stop doing that." I'm sure Tim would have been like...
And it's possible Elder Ballard did. We don't know. I just want you to show how Troy is so needy for Tim to still be a good guy. And for the church not to have done wrong. Like, there's this really odd dichotomy in the heads of so many members as they're watching this situation play out. And it really could be the church is not all wrong and Tim is not all right. Tim is not all wrong and the church is not all right. The PR statement was horrific. Tim is clearly playing defense here. I do think this is political. But just because it's political does not mean there's not something there. There's not some fire to cause the smoke. I hope there's not. Brothers and sisters, I pray for guys like Troy. Watch his episodes, give him a thumbs up. Watch him go down the rabbit hole of this is George Soros taking out Tim Ballard because he's going to endorse Josh Romney for Senate. Which is possible. I'm not saying it's not. But boy, there's some rabbit holes that Troy goes down trying to make everything make sense. But understand how bad Ward Radio makes us look. How good they make John DeLynn and Vice News look. When they come through with bad ideas, opinions, and problems. No one gets everything 100% right. I mean, just look at my videos. I am a one-man band. I cannot edit. I rely on pause and start and pause and start. And it's badly clipped, and I apologize, but I thank you all for staying with me. But I'm going to have bad opinions and bad ideas, and I expect people to call me out and let me know where I've gone wrong. Okay? But in the end, we're only as correct as the truth we hold on to. And Ward Radio and Thoughtful Faith and these guys, all these guys out there pushing narratives. Stop it until you have more information. Stop it till you actually know that what you're talking about, you have some grasp or handle on. And don't rush to defend the church or Tim. The church will take care of itself. Truth will out itself. If somebody's done some wrong, It'll come out in a wash. Sunlight's the best disinfectant. Let the light shine. You don't like Vice, but maybe it's necessary that they did this thing. You don't like the church PR department, but maybe there's a reason they were as harsh as they were. But Deseret book is not a sign of an endorsement by the church. That's just a ridiculous statement. Sorry, Jacob. But you're going to get a lot right when you talk about the church PR department, which we'll talk about tomorrow, since I need to do makeup videos. Anyway, folks, that's it. This has gone too long. I get too worked up about these, and you hear it, you see it. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry about the editing. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll have like a week off, and I can sit down, and I'll log on to Squarespace or somewhere, and I'll learn editing. Thumbnails. I don't know. Maybe. Until then, this is what you get. I hope you're okay with it. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Peace out.